So, and we talked about in your podcast episode that you wrote the Financial Playbook, and I really wanted to share with our listeners what that strategy is, because I've been using it myself personally. You know, I've cleared a credit card. I'm hoping to pay off my car finance. So it definitely works. So talk us through the book and the steps.
So we kind of call it the couch to 5K for money, because you start small and it's not meant to be overwhelming and anyone can do it. So we decided there was something missing in the world when it came to managing your money. It's overwhelming. You know, you can go online. People like Martin Lewis are amazing, but there's no one telling you what to do in what order. And so we decided to build the Financielle Playbook, and there's 3 stages: survive, build, and grow. And we start off with survive, where you know your numbers. So starting with a budget, and the B word can intimidate lots of people. And people see it as restrictive. You know, it's, I don't want a budget because it
means I have to be frugal and I can't live my life and I can't go out for dinner and I've got a birthday party coming up and I won't be able to do that if I have a budget.
But if you don't know your numbers, how are you going to improve and how do you know you're going to make progress? So knowing your numbers, knowing what's coming in and what's going out, and a few different things can come out. You know, it could be fixed expenses like your rent or your mortgage or your council tax, and sinking funds, which we say sinking funds change lives. There are a way in the budget that you can put money away for future expenses. So not savings, but, you know, the car insurance, or Christmas is the same time every year, travel. These things are going to happen. So starting to put them in your budget is a really good way of being in control. And then flexible expenses, so groceries, eating out, coffees, beauty, whatever could be it could flex during the month, go there. So when you've got what's coming in and then what's going out, what's left is your excess. And in the playbook, we use the excess to work towards goals. So once you know your numbers, the next bit of survive is pulling together a small emergency fund. This is not going to be a big amount of money. This is going to be £500, £1,000, something that firstly teaches you how to use the budget. So there's going to be something left, because if there's nothing left, you're not going to go anywhere. You need something left. And if there's a negative in that, it means that you're probably using credit. So using your excess to go towards your goals. The first goal is saving up a mini emergency fund. It's going to teach you how to save. You're going to feel better. You're going to walk a little taller. You're going to know that if anything happens, you've got a little bit of money. And for a lot of people, that's the first chunk of savings they ever have. It's a really big moment for people. Next, once we've got our mini emergency fund, we use our excess to pay down our debts. So we don't say that debts are evil, but they definitely steal from your income. You know, when you see a lot of credit card outgoings, finance outgoings, it's just annoying to see that money goes to someone else. And half the time we don't know what we used it for. So by paying down debt, you have more money to do things with. And that survives. So once you get out of that really intense phase, you've learnt to budget. You've got a bit of money in your back pocket under the bed for whenever you need it. And you're debt free, consumer debt free. And I can't tell you how that makes people feel. They just feel so much better, so much more confident, don't they?
Yeah, like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. And a lot of people, we use a lot of customer language in our marketing. And when we do customer interviews, people say, I've created a budget I can finally stick to. Because I think before people have gone super restrictive, a bit like healthy eating. We're all guilty of it. I'm going on holiday in 2 weeks' time. Like, I'm not going to eat any carbs. Like, we've all been there. You have these aspirations. It's when you've suddenly got that little bit of like motivation and you're going to go all in. And it's really good that you've got that motivation, but you're likely not going to be able to stick to it because it's too like frugal. Like, we're not into frugality. We want people to live and enjoy their lives. And I think we've just created this methodology and system and a budget, like I said, that people feel that they can finally stick to.
So when you've done survive, you move on to build, which is kind of, you've graduated from the first phase. And you should have a really good excess now, because if you think about it, you should have probably been a bit better with your spending. So you might cut a little bit if you've been overspending, and you'll have no debt payments. So you should have a bigger excess. You now can build a big emergency fund, a proper one. You know, we should have 3 to 6 months expenses in our bank account.
It's like a burn rate for a business, right? Isn't it? Where we 100%. Say you need 6 months running costs.
Absolutely. And it's so that if you lost your job, you got poorly, the roof caved in, you didn't have the right insurance, whatever it was, I can't tell you what it feels like to have that in your bank account. I mean, I've forgotten I've got it now because I'm so used to it. But it just makes you feel you can take on the world, because, you know, we'll talk about financial wellness in a minute, but if you feel better about your finances, it's one less thing to think about. Whereas if you're worried about it, it can be very stressful. So you build a really good emergency fund, you build a house deposit. So if it's time to get into property or time to upgrade your property, that's the time to do it, because you've got emergency savings and you've got no debt and you're looking to the future. And you also build in your life goals. So once, it's really hard to do everything at once. I'm saving for a dream holiday. I'm saving for an extension. I'm saving for braces. But I'm also paying down debts, and I'm also looking after emergencies. It's really overwhelming. So we kind of say, do the survival bit as quickly as you can, then build up these like stable foundations and start to build into your budget. We want to go to the Maldives. That's not something that you can't do. You can do it, but you save for it. And then once you've got to that point where you have a really good emergency fund, you've got the house that you kind of want, and you're incorporating these goals into your budget, we move on to grow. And grow is where everyone needs to move to. Everyone needs to work towards grow. Grow is growing your money. And a lot of people try and do that whilst they've got debt and whilst they've got, not control of their budget. And it's really hard to do. And actually they don't see success because you need to put a lot of money in to get a lot of money out. It's not a get rich quick. So when you're in grow, you can invest in the market, which would either be in your pension or in ISAs or in investment accounts. You could invest in property, start building up money for an investment property when you've sorted your own out. Don't rush to do that. Don't try and do it too quickly. You could invest, you could grow by starting a business. And we're not saying you can't do it earlier on, but that's a much better space to be in when you have an emergency fund and everything's settled at home. You might be more prepared to leave a job that you don't really like when you're in that space. And then we say, and invest in what you like. So some of the investments that we have, we're angel investors. We invest in crowdfunding a little bit. It might be cryptocurrency for some people. It's not for us. But there's just the freedom to grow your money, and there's less risk because you've done all the other steps. So survive, build, and grow. Everyone starts at the beginning, no matter what your income, no matter what if you're in a couple or if you're on your own, whatever, you all start there and you work your way to grow.
Two things that resonated with me was, when you see your monthly bills being debt, it's like, actually, that is so depressing. And actually, if you could pay that off, what extra money that gives towards, and I know a mortgage is debt, but, something that is a lot more worthwhile and you actually see something from. And the other thing that you said that I absolutely loved was, you said to my team, are you investors? They all said no. And you said, do you have a pension? They all said yes. And we're like, we're an investor, right? So if you go into the app, is there a spreadsheet there? Like, where do you record everything?
So it's a budgeting tool, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got first of all, people can access it for 30 days for free. And if they want to take it on, which we find a lot of people do, it's $2.99 for the month, or it's $23.99 for the year, so it's super accessible. But our secret sauce is the budget. And then we've talked about the playbooks in there too, so you've got the kind of, we see a lot of people say they scroll and they read it on the couch and they read it with their partner, they do it in a couple. They really get their mindset sorted, and then they go on to do the budget, and then it's life-changing for them.
So the biggest thing that people say when they use the app is, you help me take back control of my money. And what you're in control of, you move, and everyone wants more money. Money does help us achieve things. It helps us feel safe. It helps us have fun. If we're not in control of it, how do we, what do you think, you just wake up and accidentally drop a load in? It's not an accident. It's a very intentional thing, just like fitness. And I love when you use the fitness example, Holly, because not many people would walk into a gym and squat 100k. You're just not going to be able to do that. And in fact, so when people are trying to invest and they're trying to grow money and they're trying to get more,
but they're
if
ridden
you've
in
not got
debt.
the basics in place, you're going to fail and you're going to
hurt
hurt yourself.
You're not making any movement, because if you're paying money to your investments, but you're also paying money to your debt, you're not making any gains either. You're not making any gains.
So I guess one thing that you really encourage is investing that time to get this all set up and to do all the steps. And then another thing that I've heard you talk about is a payday routine as well. Can you tell us about that?
So again, like Holly said, it's habits, and this is what the finance industry don't do very well. They're great at trying to sell you products and maybe tell you you're spending too much in Costa, but they don't tell you how to have this routine. And so we recommend a payday routine and we talk about money date nights. If there's two of you, even if you don't combine your money physically, if you're in a couple, talking about it together and helping each other really helps you, just like a health and fitness journey, stay on track. So having a routine with your payday, doing the budget before payday, knowing what's going to be coming in, and deciding where every penny goes is the best chance of winning. If you don't have a payday routine, you'll just never be intentional. You've got to tell this money, you go there, you go there, you go there. And if, just like in a business, we allocate our time, you've got to allocate your money. It's not going to do it by accident. And you can automate lots of the routine.
what about things like, you've talked about digital banks and putting like digital pots. And I think I'm like you. I used to do envelopes when cash was a lot more like available and you'd have more cash. I used to do envelopes like, this is for petrol, this is for hair, so you've talked about like Monzo, Starling, I think there's Chase now. How does that work? So say you're with a what we call a high street bank like Halifax or a Lloyds, how do you integrate these digital pots with like a Monzo or Starling?
So I guess the first thing to note is these are proper banks and you can just use them. And it took me a while to finally leave my traditional bank and go full with I think I'm Starling, and lots of our users are Starling.
Like a safety blanket a lot of people have, like I need an institutional one.
I've always been with Barclays, I've always been with Nationwide. So firstly what you could do is keep your bills coming out of your regular account, open up one of these digital banks that have pots, and move your flexible and sinking fund money over. Now if you use the app and you do the budget, it totals it for you. So I use my app and go, right, okay, I need to move this £1,000 over to Starling, whereas now I actually get paid into Starling and I ditched it completely. But a good first step is look at opening one of these digital bank accounts and look at your sinking fund categories, because you can name them, and look at your flexible expenses and create a pot for each one of those. And this is really good for when you're busy, when you're on the go. If you don't have to track your expenses, because some people love it in the app, they track every penny. Some people don't. They want to plan it and then they want to set it all
That's
free.
me, I'm lazy. Yeah.
So if you have a £500 grocery budget, you put £500 into the groceries pot, and then when that pot's gone, it's gone. So it teaches you to go, okay, I'm in Sainsbury's now, I'm about to send 50 quid, I'll move that to the main bit. And you just get used to it. And so setting up that is a really good way of dividing all your money up into the envelopes, but digitally.
And what the other thing that you've talked about is high interest accounts. So if you've got any form of savings, you've named a couple. I think you do a monthly report, do you, on the best high interest rate?
For the UK ones we do, and that changes. So like bank switches where there's rewards and high interest. At the moment, interest rates are a pain for those of us that have mortgages or that want a mortgage or that are with debts, because that can flip to a variable. So interest rates are bad, but they're also good. So they're good when you have savings. And the amount of people, and I was one of them even earlier this year, with money sat in account making nothing. Because I think for so long we've been used to rubbish interest rates. So the switches I made using the blog, which is in the app, and you can favourite it. So I favorited it so I can just find it easily. I think I make maybe £500 across the year.
Wow.
Just on a couple of smaller savings accounts.
Which has been unheard of for a few years now,
hasn't
it?
You just made nothing. I mean, and as I move more into them and get better at it, I could probably be making more. So this is, again, coming back to don't expect things for free in terms of effort. You have to put effort in.
It's like inaction, isn't it? All the time. Like I've still not done it. So Laura's talked about how much money she's making.
I'm making more than you.
And mine's sat wasting away, arguably going backwards. So it's that inaction, procrastination, but also only tackling that when you've done all the other stuff. Like loads of people will come to us and they'll be riddled with like consumer debt and don't know where their money's going. And they're like, so I really need a high interest rate. And I'm like, why are you even thinking about that? Like,
get rid of all that.
Have you got all your other shit sorted?
How much we talk, like, 500 quid in savings, you should be putting in a high interest rate, but it's not going to change your life. If you've got 50 grand in savings, it's going to,
Why don't you focus on paying off the debt first?
But another thing we talk about, actually, is a big thing on TikTok that we do, is a money minute. So because finance is overwhelming, your budget should come with like your own little budget meeting. So some people say on a Sunday morning they spread out all they get the app out, they get the paperwork out, and they do the budget, and that's a really good time to dedicate an hour. And I think you give your team time to take is it Money Mondays or some time. But some things, life admin, grows in a list, and sometimes we just I think we then overthink it because there's so much of it. So a money minute is something we say take 60 seconds every day to do something to do with your finances, and sometimes maybe searching for a high interest rate account might take you longer than a minute. I mean, reading the blog won't, it'll take you a minute, but 5 minutes, go sort that thing out. Once you've done it, that interest rate isn't changing for a long time. Just leave it. You've done it. It might be checking the bank account, because sometimes people spot money taken out that wasn't meant to be taken out, or an overdrawn charge that you just weren't quite on the ball. Just take a money minute, 60 seconds. Because some people for a long time come to us and they've been scared at looking at the bank account. So actually just looking at your bank account is a big step.
I think you said that because you said if you just take that minute, like you not looking at it, which we're all guilty of, like it doesn't change anything. Like, it's almost like feel the fear, and which you said in the podcast, feel the fear and do it anyway.
And the other thing, for anyone that is that's scared to look at their bank account, it's just numbers.
Yeah.
So whether you look or whether you don't, it's the same. And actually sometimes the dread of putting it off, you then might see a number you don't like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whereas, no one else is judging you. It's just you looking at it. Yeah. And like, getting excited about looking at your bank account is what we want to get people to a point. And you will get to a point where, I've seen it before, like people say, imagine if you didn't realise it was payday.
Views on car finance, because I think that would be helpful for people.
So car finance has just been normalised by the car industry massively. And, cars are expensive and money is tight. So it's really hard to not think it's a good idea. It's really hard to argue against it because it's so normal. Everyone has a car payment. Like, what's yours? What's mine? Like, everyone talks about it. And what a lot of people don't know is the finance companies, the car finance companies, make more money off the finance than they do the car. Yeah. So if you think about it, it's two separate things. You're buying a car and there should be a margin in that to product. So there'll be a margin. And the margins has been really tight. I mean, cars are going up in value at the moment because of COVID and lots of other things. So it's a bit of a funny space. But they're very expensive. They make more money from the finance deal. Right. So they make a little bit of money on the car. So let's say in a 20 grand car, they might make $2,000. Okay. Yeah. So it's not a high profit. But on the finance deal, they might make $5,000.
Right.
So they double up. So they make money twice. And it's really hard for us to think, I've not got a lot of money in my bank account. I've got to pay all my bills, cost of living crisis. And you guys are saying I should buy a car. Mm-hmm. It's not easy. But to think that you would have a car payment forever. I mean, I think we've done the math, and it's like 300 grand to 600 grand by the time, if that was invested in the market, that £400 a month, that £200 a month, that £300 a month. We've got it in the playbook. There's calculations about if you didn't have it. Yeah. So if you saved up once, bought the car once, then also put a little bit money aside to maintain look after it. Actually, you then grow your excess by that amount. And it's like this slave to car financing. I always say to people, are you going to have one forever? Mm-hmm. Or is there a plan to stop it? Because what happens is, like your phones, it's upgrade. Then you go to the next one, and then suddenly you come to buy a house and they go, oh, well, your payments are quite high and everything else. Like, how are you going to afford it? So we really try and tell people, if you can avoid car finance, do it, because it teaches you to buy a cheaper car. People finance a much more expensive car than they want. And I have a nice car. Like, I'm not trying to say go get a beater and you shouldn't have a nice car. But at the same time, if you said, would you sell it tomorrow? I'd be like, absolutely. Yeah. Because I'm not attached to it and I own every bit of it. Like, it's all mine. So it's a very controversial topic. We like to say, don't do it. Try not to do it.
You would say the optimum time to buy a car is when it's 3 to 6 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's like depreciation calculators. And in fact, I've seen that you can do it by car as well. So if you've got a particular car in mind, there's like a depreciation graph. So you should be able to see, like, you drive out the forecourt, it loses 10% of its value immediately. Traditionally, I would say at the moment, cars are funny because there's a supply and demand issue. And so they're a bit expensive. So not all of them lose money. But if you can buy a car between 3 to 6 years old, not only is it less likely to have issues, it won't drop as much. It'll just drop a lot more slowly. And what the things people say to us, oh, like, my car is costing me a fortune, like, I need a finance car. Finance cars break down and they're not all covered under warranty. And actually they make money in the warranty as well, by the way. And there's lots of scare stories that I used to think having a brand new car
meant financial security. I did.
Meant that it's safe and it's reliable and, like, it's much better than that old one because that's going to have stuff wrong with it. And we say, oh, it's going to have stuff wrong with it. Like, prepare for that. We did 6 tyres one Christmas out across 2 cars. But the money was there.
You do that in a new car anyway,
absolutely.
Right? Like,
100%.
Well, honestly, girls, so my Mini is about to come up for renewal, and I've decided I'm going to just pay it off and keep it because I don't actually travel that far now. I'm not a car person. Like, if you were going to I love my Mini. I've had a Mini forever. If you were going to, I get into quite a lot of scrapes with it as well. But if you were going to say, where would you rather spend it? And it was when you said to me, like, if that whole thing of debt, like, I'm like, I'm not into cars. So why do I want to, I want a really, really nice house. So I'm okay with the interest on that. But so.
And that's going up in value capital-wise across.
Whereas a car's depreciating.
Yeah. And you can't live in your car. Laura's always like, okay, some people that come to us, they pay more on their car across 2 car finances than their mortgage is worth.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, that's really common. If you think about it,
2 decent cars. Like if you think if you go through your 20s and then your 30s and every 3-4 years you upgrade your car, you get to a point where like that's £400 to £500 per person just going to a car that you actually don't own because it's financed.
Yeah.
And then people say to us, well, how do I get out of it? And we say, look, save up to try and see if there's a balloon payment. Yeah. Like look at that. And some people create a sinking fund for that and go, when my car's up for renewal, I'm just going to buy it. Yeah. Or hand it back and think about the car that you want and start saving for that. And the other thing is save for the car that you don't quite want, but it'll do. Yeah. And in the background, keep the sinking fund method and the budgeting method allows you to save for things in the future. Yeah. So just put a bit of thought. Don't get to renewal day and go, shall I get
what do I do?
Yeah.
Do I get a credit card? Do I get finance?
Or just go and pick a new one on the forecourt, which is the easy thing to do.
Yeah. And if you want that like sexy car, save for it. Yeah. You don't get it for free. Like it's hard work. So save for that nice car and work towards it. Let it be your aspirational goal. And sometimes, like you said, when you get there and you go, I'm really going to drop 25 grand on this car, or shall I buy a house?
Say, would you ever buy? Like, look at the value of the car. So yes, £300 a month payment seems really affordable to some people. But then look at the value of the car. Like, would you pay 50 grand for that car? Yeah. Would you? Yeah. You'd be like, I'm not paying 50 grand for a car. True. It's the same thing.
It's almost like you don't actually know what your car ever cost. It's like it's £400 a month, but I actually don't know what was the value of that car. Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. And in terms of pensions, you gave some scary figures, which I kind of probably sit in that particularly self-employed people and freelance neglect their pension.
Massively.
I'll say no more. But you really, really want to encourage everybody to be investing in their pension and taking advantage of that compound interest over time.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple of things to think about with pension. What's really hard is like FOMO and living for now. And so many people have stories of people that like passed away before they reached pension age and, I want to enjoy my money now. And there's also this point where I think I shared on the last podcast that I opted out my pension at 22 because I thought I want my money now. Yeah. And if I'd have known about compound interest, that was the worst thing I could have done because the longer you invest for, the better it grows. That doesn't mean to say that it's too late. And so there's a couple of things with pensions. One, learning to delay gratification. So learning to say I'm going to put that away for later is actually a really big personal development thing to do.
In any area of life.
In any area of your life, I'm going to do little and often. I'm going to put it away, and because it's not accessible. So it's really for self-employed people. For people that are employed, your employer takes it off you, puts it away for you, and you don't think about it. So it's done.
The life admin's done for you. That the pain's taken away.
Whereas self-employed people, we speak to beauticians and hairdressers, and they get the money. So it's already hard enough to put away money for tax because you've got the money. It's really difficult to then put some away for pension when you don't feel like you've got a lot. It's really hard. So we say do it as a percentage base and copy it as if you were an employee. Yeah. So just copy like those percentages to start off with, even if you're struggling with money because you're starting to get that going. And have a look and think about the type of life that you want in retirement and look at what you put and there's calculators. You don't have to work it out yourself. Yeah. What's that going to pay you and is that all right? Yeah. Because, we're like you, we're business owners. We still have to pay into a pension because this business could fail. This could not work out. Another COVID could knock it out. A tech boom, a big competitor, one of us get ill. Loads of things could happen. And imagine if that was just it, that we thought that's the pension. A lot of people think houses and a pension. Well, you just don't know. So by planning for it, you're giving yourself the best chance of not only a really good retirement because we're living a lot longer and we want to be able to do things in retirement, but also it's an asset. So people don't think of this. For people that have children, it goes to them. It's an asset. It gets passed down. So it doesn't die with you. So it's not long lost cause. Yeah. So we just want people to firstly think of yourself as an investor if you got a pension, because it's a really important thing to think that you are doing things to grow. Yeah. And if you're self-employed, please do it. And if you need a conversation in the family, so say if one of you's self-employed and one of you's employed, the pension for the self-employed person could be a bill. Treat it like a bill. You can set up a direct debit from your bank account today. It's not hard. It's not complicated. You don't have to overthink it. This isn't some really expensive process. You can put £50 a month from the family account into a pension today. And as we talked about with the team, the government give you money back, and then the growth happens. So it's free money that people are leaving on the table.
Yeah.
I use Pension Bee personally. There's loads of others out there, but I literally set up a direct debit and it goes to it every month.
Yeah.
And if you've got old pensions that are just stagnant and you've had a few jobs, and they'll go and find them for you. You get your own beekeeper. Like, they've made it super simple. So gone are the days where you get like papers and papers sent through the post and we don't know what it means. You don't know where your money's going. You don't know what it's invested in. These startup brands, you can find loads online, have made it super simple.
And that's not another money task. Just put it on a list and take a minute. You know, I bet most people's banking apps have access to a pension. It's just a bank account. It's an investment account that's got a tax wrapper around it. And so you could open one up in minutes. And I think because we overthink it, it just doesn't get done. Whereas actually, just fucking do it. It's not. It really isn't as hard as you think. And if you think it's hard, like, come on the app, come speak to us, ask someone else in the group who's done it, because it can be very empowering, especially for self-employed people, for women who have not really taken control of their money before. Knowing that they're investing whilst doing all this hard work makes them feel better.
And as we're growing, and if we do look at investing, let's say you're absolutely like on the money, you've sorted everything out, so someone just wants to do some fun investing, what would you say are like 3 mega industries to invest in at the moment?
Tech is volatile, but it really pays literal dividends, and the returns that you get are massive. And so like the top 5 tech companies, if you think about it, like, what do we use? We all use Amazon, we all use Apple, we all use Google. Facebook is something we use, WhatsApp every day. The products sometimes invest, like if it's direct stock, which I don't invest in, like I've not got the time to research and to pay attention to, but in terms of the high performing businesses, like tech is an obvious one, but it can be up one minute and down the next. And so investing in what you like is another good thing. So products that you use, you can go on. I'm not a massive fan of crowdfunding websites, but I have done a couple of investments in businesses that I like to support. Angel investors. So we're angel investors, where you see a business and a founder that you think, actually, I want to back you and give you the capital to grow, but I also think you're going to make a return. And you can, if you get involved in the business world, you'll start hearing about people raising investment and stuff. And there's angel investment groups you can join and stuff. So investing in
high risk, isn't it? As long as you're happy to lose it.
Oh, 100%. Like, if you're an angel investor, you're expecting to lose it. So for things for growing, it's what are the tech products or the consumer products that you use all the time that you think that I'm going to keep using you and that you're not going anywhere. And investing in what you like or people that you like, because it's a fun process.
And I use a robo-advisor, so it picks it for me. So if you don't want to choose direct stock, because that can be high risk and you've got to have an idea of whether it's performed well, and it takes a lot of headspace, of which I haven't got. So for someone that's like short on time, has got the money shit together in all the other areas that we've talked about, you can find robo-advisors. I use Wealthify. I literally have a direct debit, again, set up every month, and they invest in the market for me. So they'll have analysts that are watching the market, have years of experience, that'll do it for you. Like, it's really not that complicated.
It's exciting when you actually start thinking about it.
It opens up the world. It opens up the world for people, and I think crypto bros have got a lot to answer for, because they've kind of made it this like inaccessible. You've got to join this forum, and you've got to join this like WhatsApp chat.
What they do is they invest in whole of market funds. So what it means is they buy a little of every company in the stock market. So some companies will fail, and some companies will do really well, and some companies like a BP or a Johnson & Johnson are just going to trickle along and always do well. And they've shown that most people can't beat the market. If you just buy a bit of the market, which is what these funds do, it'll just go up. And honestly, like initially, you might see an ISA with £1,000 in it, and it goes up £10, it goes down £10, and you go, what am I doing? This is useless. When you then start looking at your pension and you start looking at your other investments, there was a month where, especially when we weren't earning a lot of money when we first started the business, we weren't taking a salary, but my net worth went up. My investments went up more than my old salary was in a month.
Wow.
Just went up because it was compounding and it just went up. Now, yes, I can't access all of those because they're in pensions, and yes, it went down a different month.
It's like a long game,
seeing
isn't it?
those big jumps
definitely
is game changing, and that's what people talk about with compound interest. And that makes money now when I sleep. Like, the people at Amazon are working hard to make me rich. Like, that's kind of how I think about investing.
And this is like diversifying your portfolio, right? Isn't
absolutely.
it?
You mentioned like angel investing in the market, direct stock, property. There's so many things, but I think it's not sexy sometimes. Like, as much as there's so many podcasts, you'll see them on TikTok, men talking about investments and like, I put it on and I sold it the next day. It's gambling.
Yeah. If you pick.
Absolutely. Whereas if you can do these, it's a long game.
Yeah.
So it takes the pressure off as well.
Yeah.
So it stops you going like, oh, I'm going to have to do it. I'm really scared. Like, so many women come to us terrified. We've got a good ebook in the app called Investing for Beginners. Like, literally just start there.
Oh, I need to have a look at that.
And your first thing that we're like is your pension. Sort that out first.
And then that's everything else will follow. Yeah. I think, again, we've mentioned Tony Robbins in the first podcast, but just something he always said, and it's so simple, everything comes up and down. So if you are in it for the long game, even when things drop in a recession, they will go back up typically. And one last question in terms of practicalities. A lot of people have rental properties. Obviously, the rental market is not what we are used to and the yield that we would expect. What's your view on that? And then what's your view on like holiday rental properties? So buying to essentially have a holiday let or an Airbnb.
So firstly, I see lots of people struggle with rental properties when they've not got their own finances in order.
Yeah. Okay.
And so when we talk about survive, build and grow, some people come to us and they've already got a rental property, but they've got lots of debt and they're not in control of the budget, and they often make the decision to sell it. Yeah. And there's this fear sometimes about, but what if it grew and what if it made this? But what a lot of people do is actually, and I did this to be fair, move out of your starter home, move to the next one and keep it and rent it. What I say is, would you buy that as an investment? Like, would you go out and go, that property will rent for this and treat it like a P&L? So if it was a business decision, what cash can it make? What are the expenses going to be? What the tax is going to be? And some people don't do that. And like I said, I didn't do it. And I've got, like I said, a family member rents mine. So I actually don't even treat it as a business decision. But would you go out and buy that for a business? And if you wouldn't, then it could be a distraction. There are absolutely benefits to rental property. It tends to go up over time, no matter what, especially if you've got it for the long run. And you especially with some models, you can buy it at a certain price and the rent's really good, and so it pays for it. But it's all a business decision. So model it, like do the figures, and if you're not willing to do the figures, then you're not an investor. Like, you're not doing it properly. People that do well treat it like a business, and you might see a property that, I'll buy that and I'll rent it out. Well, what's the rentals? What are the comps? Make friends with estate agents. So rental properties are great as a concept, but you have to put the work in. So for example, on a personal level, to own one personally, you get hammered on tax. To buy through a corporate vehicle, it's a lot better. But again, model it, because if interest rates go up, like suddenly it can wipe out the business decision, and it's not easy to liquidate that money. Like, to sell a property takes a long time. It's not I'll just sell my shares. It's definitely worth thinking about it as a business decision, rather than I've heard rental properties are a good idea, so I might keep it and rent it out.
I think, like I said, years ago, that might have been a really good investment. Like you always say, years ago, it was great, but things have come into play in the last few years that means that it's not as fruitful as it probably once was.
And there's probably easier, more accessible ways to, like, investing in the stock market is much easier. I can buy £1 of shares today
on your phone now,
rather than saving up. What would someone need for a rental deposit on a rental nowadays? You're going to need 25%. Can someone save 50 grand easily? And would you put it in property? Like I said, it's a safe bet. And in Britain, we love property. Like, it's like, do you remember Property Ladder? Kirsty and Phil.
In other European countries, it's not like having a mortgage and owning a home isn't like the be all and end all. Whereas here, it's seen as like, you've made it, and it's like a life stage that you have to go through, otherwise you fail. And it's like, it's not necessarily the case anymore.
So then holiday lets, it's a similar thing. They tend to be much better cash flowers, because you can charge higher for a shorter period of time. I think bigger regulation is going to come in.
Laura always said, really got so many people come to us wanting to buy a holiday home. They're like, okay, so my dream is to buy a holiday home in Portugal. And Laura's like, but things change, tastes change, you find a new destination that you love. She was like, why don't you for 4 weeks in a year get an Airbnb in a place that you absolutely love, that you wouldn't be able to afford in a home that is like way beyond your expectations of what you could actually afford.
And you'll spend a fortune doing it, but you would have paid that in costs and interest and stuff.
Everyone always thinks they're going to go more, and I always think it's a bit like when people buy a yacht and they say it's like the best and worst day. The two best days of owning a yacht are the day that you buy it and the day that you sell it. I think a lot of holiday homeowners feel the same way. They buy a property in Spain, they think they're going to go to it every single weekend. It's just not the case. Like, flights can be really expensive. You've got birthdays, you've got events, like you're ill, like you just can't go. You don't get the value out of it.
What I love about you guys, you're on a mission to make sure people are financially well. You know that I'm hugely passionate about mental health, and I know that your app is predominantly female used. However, you know, there's so much in the media about, if we, you know, touch on men's mental health, a lot of things that we hear about suicide are related, they can trace themselves all the way back to money, in terms of, you know, men wanting to provide and feeling they're not doing a good enough job. But as any gender, you make some really good points about financial wellness linked to mental health. Can you just touch upon that for us?
I think there's two things. I think one, like, if you have poor mental health, it's really hard to manage money. So whether that's like, you know, erratic episodes or manic episodes, or just feeling low, a lot of us are emotional spenders or emotional eaters, and you know, it's really hard to manage your money if you're not great. Also, if you're not great with your mental health, if you are poor with money, it's also going to impact your mental health. So it's kind of really circular. And what we saw, and no one likes to hear that you can't get rich quick, just like you can't get thin quick, and you can't get fit quick. Like, no one really likes to accept it, but it is the truth. And there's so much out there about get rich and wealth, and it's kind of too far away for most people that it becomes overwhelming. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be wealthy. And we actually think the biggest jump is feeling financially well. So if you prioritize wellness over wealth, it's not a figure. Like, wealth really is probably a figure. It's a financially
when I hit like 20
figure.
grand of savings and I get like an 80 grand
Or
job,
be a millionaire.
I'll be happy.
Yeah, and it's a monetary thing, and you either hit it or you don't. It's binary. Like, if you've not hit that number, you're not wealthy. Whereas actually, you could feel more financially well by taking a money minute.
Yeah.
By doing a budget, by moving money into savings. Like, these little things make you feel more well, and it really compounds. If you think about compounding money in numbers, you compound your financial wellness. And so we feel lots of people talk about financial well-being, but these actionable steps genuinely make you feel more well, and we're just a happier people. We're better providers as well, because we don't feel pressure. We're better givers because we can give money to people and we can donate to charities. And
I think we always thought our sign of success would be people saying, oh, I've like saved this much more this year and paid this much down. But actually, a few people come to us and they've got time back. They're earning less, but they do better with their money, therefore they have more time. So a lady, her biggest win was that she went down to 4 days a week, so she could spend a day with her family on less money, but she did so much better with the 4 day a week salary because she managed it. It gave her time back, and we never considered that to be like a KPI for us, that people would be like, oh, your product works because it's given me a day back with my family, and time's the most important thing to me, not being richer. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that would be a thing.
Biggest thing that people say to us is, I'm shit with money. And if you think about negative self-talk, you know, you're really big into personal development, and what you say will happen, and manifestation. And to say I'm shit with money, you're probably going to be shit with money. You know, you said before, I'm going to be a money queen. The more you say that, you'll feel better, and you will. And so negative self-talk is connected to financial well-being as well. You know, we talk about money personalities, so knowing that it's okay if you're not a numbers person, just do the high level one. It's okay if you're a money geek, but loosen up a little bit, but understanding what you are and forgiving yourself a little bit. Going an overspending session, you can pull it back, go over there and do something different. Meal prep this week, you know, have cereal for tea a couple of times, and you've suddenly like evened it out. Or just go, this month I've messed up my budget, I'm human,
and that's okay,
there's another payday. And that's all connected to financial well-being. Whereas if you're connected to a number, the pressure is so high that most people go, I'm not going to do it anyway, so might as well give up.
So you're on a mission to make people feel financially well, improve their confidence in relationship with money. So can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, so if you go in the App Store and search for Financielle, you'll find us there. But our home is also on Instagram, handles just at Financielle. Same on TikTok. We've got a nice little following growing there of international users that are enjoying our content. So yeah, find us there.
Come there, ask us anything, DM us. It's us behind it, the two of us and Lucy. So we're always here to kind of answer your questions and listen. And we know stuff about people that their husbands don't know. We know if
good at
they're in
keeping secrets.
debt. We know if they're going to leave them. So we keep those secrets. We never reveal them.
And I think, the podcast is anything is possible, and it's anything is possible for you at any age. And I think that genuinely we need to make people understand that they can take control of their finances anytime. I know there's a lot of, I know we hark back to females, but I remember something when my dad had the stroke in December. My mum's biggest fear is, I don't know where anything is. I don't know how I'm going to sort it.
I'm not in control.
Yeah. And I think that we want to encourage people that to be able to, whether they're single or in a relationship, understand where all their money is and where they can find it all. So,
and if you think about, you might think it's too late if you're thinking about wealth. So if you're, in your mid-60s and you are in lots of debt and you want to become a millionaire, you've just put the pressure, and it's not impossible, by the way, but the pressure is too high. If it's I'm mid-60s and I want to feel better about my money, you come to us, we'll sort you out,
achievable,
and you'll feel better.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies. Excited to be on this journey with you myself personally, and I hope that this inspires a lot of other people to pick up their financial management and get excited about making money. Thank you.
Thank you for having us back.